As President Trump and former Vice President Biden battle for the presidency, Republicans and Democrats are wrestling tonight over the Senate.
A handful of races likely to determine which party will control the chamber. Now, with this, influence over the next president's agenda, cabinet, and judicial nominees.
News 4 anchor Chuck Scarborough has been keeping a close eye on these races, Chuck, as the Democrats try to flip the chamber.
Indeed, David, Natalie, we've been watching 7 U.S. Senate races in 6 days tonight, races where Democrats are likely to take Republican seats, their best chance there. Heading into tonight, Republicans had a 53-seat majority, but 23 GOP senators were up for election this year, compared with only 12 Democrats, and 14 of the Republicans are considered vulnerable, compared with only 2 Democrats. To flip the Senate, the Democrats need a net gain of 4 seats, 3 if they also win the White House. So where do we stand right now? Well, first, the Democrats have picked up a seat in Colorado. Former Governor John Hickenlooper is the projected winner over Republican incumbent Cory Gardner. In Arizona, it's a dogfight between 2 military combat pilots. Right now, incumbent Republican Martha McSally, an Air Force veteran, is trailing Democrat Mark Kelly, an astronaut and Navy veteran. Kelly is the husband of former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords. In Maine, moderate Republican Susan Collins is trying to hold off her Democratic challenger, Maine State House Speaker Sarah Gideon. Collins jumped out to a big lead tonight, but it's still too early to tell. In North Carolina, Republican incumbent Tom Tillis is locked in a tight battle with Democrat Cal Cunningham, a U.S. Army veteran and former state senator. And in Iowa, Trump loyalist Joni Ernst is trailing Democrat Teresa Greenfield, but fewer than half the votes have been counted. Georgia has 2 U.S. Senate seats up for grabs this year, quite unusual. In one race, Republican incumbent David Perdue is leading his Democratic challenger, John Ossoff. In the other Georgia race, NBC News projects we're headed for a runoff there between Republican incumbent Kelly Loeffler and Democratic challenger Raphael Warnock. Georgia has a rule that requires a runoff if no candidate gets 50% of the vote. And that election is going to be held on January 5th, which might mean we might not know which party controls the Senate until early next year. Now, as I mentioned earlier, 2 Democratic incumbents were considered vulnerable. One of them has already been projected to lose tonight. In Alabama, former Auburn University head football coach Tommy Tuberville is the projected winner against Democratic incumbent Doug Jones. And in Michigan, the Republican candidate, businessman and Army veteran John James, is leading one-term Democratic incumbent Gary Peters. Another race that could impact the balance of power, New York's 11th Congressional District, covering Staten Island and parts of southern Brooklyn.
Yep, Chuck, and we've got more on the first-term incumbent, Max Rose, who's been battling Nicole Malliotakis. This was a nasty campaign. It's a traditionally Republican district that flipped for Rose in 2018, but tonight, Nicole Malliotakis is declaring victory. We've got reporters positioned with both campaigns. Let's begin with News 4's Ray Villeda, who's in New Dorp with Malliotakis. Ray.
Hi, David. Nicole Malliotakis started the night with a razor-thin lead over incumbent Max Rose, and tonight she claimed a sizable victory. In fact, take a look. She took the podium just within the last hour. Her supporters are still here. She is joining Congress representing the 11th district made up of South Brooklyn and Staten Island. Malliotakis is locked in step with the president. Tonight, she thanked her family, the president, former Mayor Giuliani, and the NYPD. She, like the president, was endorsed by the NYPD police union. She talked about her conservative values and even shared a little bit of her own family story.
It is that American dream that gives me the opportunity to stand before you, just one generation from those poor immigrants, and become a member of the United States Congress.
Malliotakis had served in the Assembly since 2011, representing the same district. She will now represent it in Congress. Across town, my colleague Checkey Beckford was in the Max Rose camp. A more somber night there, Checkey.
It was, Ray, but the congressman did not concede, taking to the stage with his wife, Leah. He says that he wants every vote counted, and he hopes his opponent wants the same. He's talking about 40,000 absentee ballots that still need to be counted and won't begin being counted until next week, November 9th. And then he says there are potentially 10,000 more that are still in the mail. He says that could make the difference in a race right now that is where he's only separated from Malliotakis by about 37,000 votes, with about 90% of the precincts reporting at this point. So Rose saying that he does not plan to concede until those votes are counted. Tonight he said again that he does not back down on his decision to support Black Lives Matter. At the same time, he supports police. As a retired Army combat veteran, he says he understands the trauma that affects police officers when they go to work and their families concerned, but he also supports justice, and he wants to make sure that stands that way as well. Take a listen to what he said earlier tonight.
At the moment, there are at a minimum 40,000 absentee ballots that were returned, with potentially 10,000 more in the mail. As a soldier who fought for our democracy, I believe every vote should be counted.
So again, Congressman Rose somber tonight, getting choked up at points, but not conceding at this point to Nicole Malliotakis. He says he wants all of those votes counted before he concedes. We're live in West Brighton tonight. Checkey Beckford, News 4 New York.
Checkey, thank you for that update. And Ray, on Long Island, one of the most heated races in the nation. We're talking about the race for New York's 1st congressional district. It was in a dead heat leading up to Election Day.
Yeah, Republican incumbent Lee Zeldin hoping to hold off challenger Nancy Goroff to secure that 4th term. As you can see, we're still waiting for results there, but we want to get out to News 4's Paisley Chang live at Zeldin's headquarters in Center Moriches. Paisley.
Natalie, for the past hour, Zeldin supporters have been arriving here at his campaign office in Center Moriches, carrying flags, wearing MAGA hats, and wearing campaign pins that say Trump 2020. They are awaiting what they hope to be good news. Right now, we aren't sure yet because the precincts aren't all reporting, but we're told that Zeldin will be holding a news conference in about 15 minutes from now in the rear of this facility. Now, this was a very tight race, probably one of the highly watched races across the nation. His challenger, Nancy Goroff, his Democratic challenger, is not a career politician. She is a chemist, a chemistry professor at Stony Brook, who has spoken out on climate change, affordable health care, and gun safety. Zeldin, meanwhile, like you said, is running for his 4th term. He's tough on immigration. He's focused his campaign on support for law enforcement and veterans, and has aligned himself with President Trump, appearing with him at several high-profile events all across Long Island. Like I said, he is expected to speak later on in about 15 minutes, and we hope to bring that to you live. For now, we're live in Center Moriches. Paisley Chang, News 4 New York.
All right, Paisley, thank you. Also on Long Island, voters choosing a new representative for New York's 2nd congressional district. That's for the first time in 28 years. This
has the Republican Andrew Garbarino squaring off against the Democrat Jackie Gordon. This is a race to fill the seat of the longtime Congressman Peter King. News 4's Greg Sergel live in Sayville at Garbarino's headquarters. Greg?
That's right, David, and we're awaiting Republican candidate Garbarino's appearance here at the Sayville Republican Club. He's expected here at some point this evening, but right now it's looking more and more like this congressional race may be one where we don't know the winner for several days. Now, at the moment, Garbarino is leading his Democratic opponent, Jackie Gordon, by roughly 14,000 votes. The votes, of course, being tallied in both Nassau and Suffolk counties because this congressional district spans both of those counties. But the great unknown tonight is the number of absentee ballots. There are roughly 300,000 absentee ballots to be counted in Nassau and Suffolk counties, and they won't be counted until a week from today. We don't know exactly how many of those ballots are in this 2nd congressional district, but presumably it could be a number large enough to affect the affect the outcome, I should say. And that's a big reason why Jackie Gordon spoke to her supporters earlier tonight and then went home, and also a big reason why Garbarino's staff here are saying this race may end up being a very close one.
We had a good message. We got our message out. I got to meet a lot of voters. I'm happy with the way we ran our campaign. I'm happy with the message we had. So I'm very proud of what we've done, and I'm looking forward to a victory tonight.
I have a good feeling that tonight's going to be a good night. And it's going to be a good night for the 2nd congressional district. It's going to be a good night for the country. And change is on the horizon.
Again, we're awaiting Garbarino's speech to a small group of supporters here in Sayville. But again, a lot of absentee ballots still to be counted here. And again, we may not know the outcome for a number of days. We're live in Sayville. Greg Sergel, News 4 New York.
Okay, Greg, thank you. Another congressional race we've had our eyes on tonight is in New Jersey, House District 7, the area of Hunterdon County. Right now, the Democratic incumbent Tom Malinowski leading the Republican Tom Kean Jr., the son of the former Republican governor of New Jersey.